How about that? If you haven't noticed, our videos have cool introductions now. Our videos have shorts now. We went from, I don't even know how to post or record about a year ago to really cool intros and outros. Thank you to some of the folks that we're working with on the production side for this YouTube channel. So Adam, today we're talking objections. We're talking stuff that if the person watches today's video and implements it in the field, they're going to make more money next week. Are you excited to talk about objections?
Yeah, nothing like having a good presentation, everything going good, and then you get to the end and the client's like, well, I got to think about it. And you're like, okay, sounds good. Talk to you next week. And then they forgot you ever lived. So, uh, so yeah, I think maybe we can help out a lot of agents with some different techniques, things that we've done in the past, some unique things, even maybe some things that I've done that have helped to handle certain situations that maybe sometimes people don't even think about. So for sure.
I'm going to have to manage the mute button today because the guy that's painting the house just showed up. The dog doesn't like him. And that's real life when you don't have your own studio to record in. You're just recording from home like most of us here in real life. So in my opinion, objections are just buying questions when you have an interested buyer. What are your thoughts about reframing the concept of an objection into it being really a buying question?
Yeah, I think so. We talk a lot about just the one example that I used at the beginning there, just the simple, I have to think about it. That's, again, yeah, it's nothing more than just a smokescreen. I mean, it's a way for the client to try to get you up to leave because they're just not comfortable or maybe ready to make that decision yet. And we just need to figure out ways to overcome that. I've always kind of had the opinion out in the field that if I don't write that piece of business while I'm there, there's a real good chance I'm never going to see that person ever again. Follow up. I mean, yeah, you can try it, but most of the time you're not going to get a whole lot out of follow-ups. If you don't write that piece of business right then and there, I would recommend though to not push too hard. I kind of feel like if you push too hard, then maybe the client feels sold, and then 2 hours later they're calling you to cancel it. So there's I don't know. It's a bit maybe of like a balance, I guess, when it comes to making the client feel comfortable, helping them work their way through that decision, because in the back of their mind, I think they know they need it. But then we don't want to push too hard. Like I said, we want them to feel comfortable with the decision that they made, and they don't want to be felt like they were forced into that decision.
I think most objections are about trust, price, or urgency. Talk about trust as a way to overcome objections.
Yeah, I mean, for one thing, I think trust, for me, it's a lot easier face to face to kind of build that trust than it had been over the phone. I think that people, when they see you, they can kind of see your mannerisms. They can kind of see just how you act, how you handle things. If you know the business, or at least seem like you know the business. Oh man. I just totally lost my train of thought, Chris. We're going to have our editor take care of this one.
Well, the beauty of that is we have someone to edit the video. So when the dog barks, the internet drops out, or
you got up and then my head just kind of went elsewhere.
That's okay. I think sometimes too, when it's not trust, objections are rooted in price. Like the person genuinely knows they need insurance. Yeah. They can't afford the original 3 options that you showed them. Do you think sometimes an objection is really a price problem in disguise?
I think so. I mean, again, the most common objection, just the simple, I have to think about it. It's always about the money, in my opinion. And it's not, the way that I would overcome that is very simple. Well, if it's about the money, we don't need the money today. When do you receive your Social Security? When do you get paid? And we can set it up for that date. It's as simple as that. A lot of times they just don't have the money right now. Mm-hmm. And it's just the unfortunate situation that a lot of our clients are in. They are on a fixed income. If they weren't, they probably wouldn't need a final expense policy. So they're on a fixed income. They're living paycheck to paycheck or deposit to deposit, whatever you want to say. And when they get that money, their bills are taken care of. Their money is spent for the month. They have a little bit left to live on. So maybe they just paid all their bills. They just received their Social Security, and they're not going to be able to do this until next month.
Yeah.
So you could get up and leave, or you could say, well, if it's about the money, I don't need the money today. When do you get paid? Okay, well, we just set this up to coincide with when you receive your Social Security, and it'll just be paid the same day you get paid, and you're never going to miss it.
When you're closing somebody, let's presume this isn't a replacement. This is a standard, I don't have insurance and now I'm getting it type scenario. Are there particular face amounts or premiums that you tend to show people?
Not really. I really try to tend to focus on the need. Well, I would say two things: the need and then affordability. I mean, if they want to be buried, of course. I mean, the funeral prices are going to be a little bit higher. I use a website called parting.com, and it's something that I think is a very useful tool where it really makes it look like you know what you're doing out in the field. You can talk about local funeral homes, and you can even ask the client if they know which funeral home that they're going to use. You can find out if they're going to be buried or if they're going to be cremated. It'll show you a price breakdown per funeral home of what the average cost is. So that way, I mean, right then and there, the client, well, I think it's going to, give you a little bit of credibility, but then also the client can see, well, if I want to use that funeral home, that's how much it's going to cost. They can kind of see it in their head then. And then, we also have to factor in cemetery costs. And then from there, I mean, that's, like I said, I like to focus on the need and affordability. So, maybe all in, it's going to cost $12,000 to be buried and for the funeral expenses. And so I'll probably start there, but then I'm also going to kind of look at the surroundings that I'm in. And if it just doesn't look like I'm working with a lot, maybe I'll start with a little bit less, or I'll at least show them lower options as well, and kind of explain, well, something's better than nothing. If I'm sure your family would appreciate that you could at least help them a little bit than not at all. And you can always increase it as time goes on. I mean, I want to make sure that they can handle paying it every month and not just the first month.
I like to show $50 a month or right around that general area. I like to show 75 or right around that area, and 100 or more. And what I do there is I found that my average premium tends to be about $72 a month. And if I'm showing 50, 75, and 100, it gives me the opportunity to fall right along my averages. It gives me the opportunity to come down if they can't afford 50. And it gives me the opportunity to catch some higher premium. I've also found if I'm showing 50, 75, and 100, oftentimes a person thinks, be it as it may, that the smallest they can purchase is 50. I think if I'm showing 25, 50, and 75, those bottom pickers are going to pick 25, when if all I've shown them is 50, they're going to pick 50. But of course, there's judgment, there's opinion, there's thought based off the situation. I just think when I train people and when I'm closing, I just show the same number all the time, and it adds more regularity to my close.
Yeah, definitely sounds like your way of doing it keeps it pretty simple.
Yeah,
for sure.
And when you have a new agent, I think sometimes an agent's thinking to themselves, holy crap, do I show them 35? Do I show them 5? Do I show them $10? Do I show them $100? Just give them a roadway to run on and see where it goes from there. When it comes to an objection, let's just say someone hits you with I need to talk to my kids, brothers, cousins, sisters, uncle, pastor, imam, somebody about what I'm about to do today. How do you handle, I need to talk to blank as an objection?
The way I handle that is I like to try to paint a picture in the back of their mind. I want them to kind of visually see it just by explaining it. And I always tell them, well, look at, what's going to happen. Let's go through this. What's going to happen when you go and you talk to your daughter about this? I mean, for one thing, Mrs. Jones, your daughter, she doesn't want to think about the fact that one day you're not going to be here. And more than likely, she's probably going to tell you, don't worry about it, Mom. We got that part handled. You don't need to do that. you got enough bills. That's probably what's going to happen. But now, Mrs. Jones, that you're doing this for your daughter, and you know that it is going to benefit her because it's going to make that probably the worst day in her life a whole lot easier because you took care of this ahead of time.
Mhm.
So, I understand that you want to talk to your daughter. This is something I think you'd be better off to just move forward with. Look at it as like the last gift that you're going to be leaving your daughter, and just let her know if anything that when the time comes, she needs to call me, and we'll make sure everything gets handled, and she's going to get that money when she needs it, and she'll be thankful that you did this in the long run.
I think oftentimes the first thing that somebody says, if what they say is an objection, is a smokescreen. And once you blow the smoke away, you're either going to discover the root problem or you're going to discover it was a made up statement because it's going to come back again. Like, oh, I need to talk to my kids. All right, here's your explanation. Oh, well, blah, 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 blah. See, it's not real. You can't overcome an objection that's not real. Like, I think a lot of times agents get frustrated thinking, I can't overcome something. They're just BSing you. But if it's real, you uncover what it is. Maybe they didn't need to talk to their kids about it, but Adam, I'm afraid I can't afford these options. What am I supposed to do? Because I know I need it for my kids.
Yeah, well, and then if they say that too, Chris, I got to think about it, and you say, well, why don't we just get them on the phone? And then what happens then? More than likely, probably another excuse. Oh, well, she's at work right now. She can't talk right now. I'm going to have to call her later and get back to you. How would you handle that?
See, I've learned that when it comes to family, they're either going to seal the deal and you'll have 105% persistency on that piece of business, or they're going to kill it. And there's like no middle ground. And if they genuinely need to talk to somebody about it, and you say, perfectly, no big deal. Why don't we do this, Adam? Why don't we call blank, get him on the phone? I'll explain the situation and see if we can get a thumbs up to move forward. And in those unique circumstances where they really want that opinion, they'll call that person. And that person is either going to listen and say, yeah, I like this, or you're a scam, get out of the house. One or the other. Like thank God there's no middle ground. And if it's not a real objection and they say they're at work, they're in Europe, they're unavailable, then it's not real. It's just not a real thing that they're actually throwing your way. Move on to somebody who's more interested in this conversation with you.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you how far are you going to push before you finally decide, you know what, this person's not worth my time. I'm gonna get up and go help someone that really needs my help or wants my help.
Yeah, I think the difficulty with that comes when people don't have enough people to see and they're trying to pull blood out of a stone. Like if you've only purchased 10 leads this week, 10 direct mail leads, that's all you bought. Or you didn't buy you didn't buy any, and you're just working off of last week's leftovers.
Mm-hmm.
And you finally, after door knocking Ms. Johnson 6 times, got in front of her. And you have no more appointments, no other people to see, no plan of attack, no more leads. Like this is it. Man, I'm going to open her a bank account just to be able to write her a piece of business. But if you have plenty of leads, plenty of places to be, plenty of appointments, people to fall back on, referrals, senior centers, alternate strategies, if the person throws some crap at you and it doesn't stick on the wall, I will pack up my things and walk out mid-conversation. I literally don't care because I'm never going to see them again.
Yeah, see, I mean, you have the same mindset as me. I mean, if I can't get anywhere with that person, 9 times out of 10, that's just going to be it. If you call, they're just going to give you the same runaround. Every once in a while, I might drop back in on them. I've closed a few that way, but for the most part, they're unfortunately, it's kind of sad to say, they're probably never going to do anything. They're probably going to end up their family's probably going to end up in that predicament that they really didn't want to be in, but they just didn't have the courage to move forward to end up actually doing it.
Yeah. I think we have to understand that a lot of the people we speak to are permanent procrastinators, professional procrastinators. Many of them, in their own defense, were never decision makers at work, or they never worked long enough to move up the chain of command. And they're just genuinely not used to making decisions. And it's adverse to them in their normal flow of doing nothing throughout the day to have to do something. And if you recognize that they're not normally decision makers, that they're used to procrastinating, you can give them a little bit of an ethical push in that direction.
Yeah, my biggest pet peeve is people that are in perfect health. That they just, because they're in perfect health, they think that they can just continue to put it off. And it's like, well, that's when you want to do it. You want to do this while you're in good health. We don't know what tomorrow is going to bring us. And I mean, do you ever use stories? I mean, have you ever had experience from the past?
I literally wrote down story selling as you were saying that.
Yeah.
I love to write down notes to keep the conversation in a good direction for people. Story sell. Adam says to me, or Adam he is in his younger age. He says, in good health. I'm predicting this might be a problem. Adam, let me tell you a story about a good friend of mine. Went on vacation literally a year ago, left right after school, took their family across country. Her husband, her son, her stepdaughter's in the car, traveling the country. Beautiful pictures all over Facebook. Killed in a car accident one Tuesday afternoon. 40 years old. Perfectly fine health, perfectly fine trip, dead. Life really could end that quickly. And if that happened to you and you continue to not have insurance, what would that look like for your insert name of the beneficiary right here? And you shut up and you let him answer the question. Like, you just story sold a very tragic and real to life story. If he wants it, he's going to be like, well, holy hell, maybe that could happen to me. I should at least get something. And if they're heartless and they don't care and they're going to wait till they're 70, you've done the best you could do.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, exactly. Sometimes you just have to move on. You can push as hard as you want, but I've used stories. Sometimes they work. Most of the time they're just like, wow, that's so unfortunate, but I'm just going to have to, think about it.
Well, then you got in the batter's box and you took the pitches the best you could. And sometimes you strike out and you get back up again in 2 innings. Like, if you really give the presentation and you put in your full effort and you're dialed in, you're not on Facebook, your quality presentation, and in 35 minutes they didn't want what you showed them, maybe it's not your fault. Like, just go to the next person. Go to the next person. And before you know it, at 5:30, because you didn't give up on the day, you found somebody who genuinely likes you, trusts you, and needs what you're selling them. And what you're selling them, they're guaranteed to use. I think sometimes we forget we sell a product they're guaranteed to use. Like, give yourself some credibility with that.
Yep. No, most definitely. No, it makes sense. I mean, sometimes you just I like what you said, if you have enough activity, you're not going to push super hard. You can only, like I said, you can only push so hard, or it's going to get to the point where that person feels sold. You're ready to just move on and help others that are willing to listen to you, that want your help. Because again, if you push too hard, you're going to be dealing with a lot of chargebacks. You're going to be having persistency issues. I don't want to get to the point where I feel like I just have to make this sale, like, for financial purposes. Like, I want to make sure that, I'm writing enough business. I have enough leads coming in that it's not going to make or break me whether I make this sale or not. I can move on to the next and I'll be just fine.
Do you ever walk out of a home and you say to yourself, that wasn't a good one? Like, I closed it, I wrote it, I submitted it, I don't like it. And I don't feel good about the way that one just ended.
Yeah, maybe sometimes, not too often. I mean, I've had a few where, I don't know, sometimes I might even contact the company and be like, could you pay me as earned on this? Just because I'm a little worried that there's a possibility that it might not be the best, but that doesn't happen too often. Sometimes we can prejudge too, I think. Absolutely. And maybe it didn't feel right, but heck, that piece of business might stay in the books forever. Yeah. Just never know.
One of my notes here says, don't assume, like, when you're overcoming an objection or walking out of the home or thinking they don't want it or thinking they can't afford it, or like, a lot of times we assume our way out of the house when we just need to go through the procedure, go through the presentation, go through A through Z. If they're a qualified buyer, give them a presentation, see what happens. Like, I think sometimes we assume all of these things instead of just giving the presentation.
Yeah, I got one more for you real quick before we head off here. you ever had one where the husband and wife, you're talking to a husband and wife, and everything's going good. Um, a lot, and maybe what I've experienced a lot of times, if it's a husband and wife, a lot of times the wife seems more interested than the husband, and the husband's the one who's just kind of hesitant, and he's the one who's just kind of standing guard, like, and maybe if you get to the end and he's like, we got to talk this over, we got to talk this through, we don't just make any decisions without talking about it first. How do you handle that?
I think during a husband and wife presentation, you need to identify the decision maker, not in a bold, who makes the decisions in this relationship? Like, just listen in. Some people make financial decisions. Some people make fashion decisions. Some people figure out what the nuance is with this type of situation, and then leverage that person into the conversation. And then before you give up, call their bluff. Like, Adam, I mean, realistically, I understand that you need to rationalize this and think about it and whatever you're trying to describe to me, but role play with me for a second. You died tomorrow.
Yeah.
You died tomorrow. Now what happens? What does this look like? You're dead.
Yeah. I mean, well, she's going to have to deal with it.
She has to deal with what exactly? Like, unpack this for me a second. You're dead.
She's going to have to pay those, expenses. She's going to figure out a way to pay it.
Okay. And we're here having this conversation today because you don't have a strategy for this. You don't have the money. You don't have insurance. You don't have a plan. And now you're dead. And now she's having to deal with it. Can she really afford to pay for a funeral?
No.
Okay. Can she afford the rent, the food, or the mortgage come next month because you're dead tomorrow?
Probably not.
So, I mean, just realistically here, should we get insurance or should we wait? Just be honest with me.
Well, yeah. Again, I mean, to me, me answering your questions, it makes sense. Yes.
Yeah.
We should get insurance today.
Okay.
And but I'm sure you've gone through that with people, and you still at the end, they're, oh yeah, I understand, but we still have to,
totally fine. Totally fine. Do me a favor and never fill this form out again, because clearly this program isn't for you, and I'm going to find somebody else that I can help today.
And one thing I've tried that I've done in the past that has worked, and again, kind of like what you said, where you can kind of tell through the presentation who the one is who really cares and the one who's just kind of like whatever. And again, like I said, a lot of times it's the wife who's the one who's much more interested. She knows that this is important, and the man's just like, whatever, I don't care. Throw me out in a hole in the backyard. Like, it's a selfish attitude to have. That's not what's going to happen.
Sir, you rent
can't
here.
do that.
You can't be put in the backyard.
Yeah.
That's not even a real thing.
So, and a lot of times what I'll do, I'll give them a chance to actually have that quick conversation. And I don't say, you know what, I'll go in the other room and let you talk. I just simply ask them if I can go to the bathroom. Can I use your bathroom real quick? And I probably don't even have to go, but I'll walk into their bathroom and I'll close the door. I'll play around on my phone for a couple minutes or something. And what's funny is a lot of times you hear the wife bitching out the husband. Like, what are you doing? We need this. When he gets back here, you just need to sit there and shut up, and we're doing this, okay? Like, exactly. Those are conversations that I'll hear through the door just by walking and going to the bathroom to give, because the wife, she doesn't want to do that in front of me. But the second I'm out of the room, she don't care. She's going to bitch her husband out. So, so that's happened to me a lot of times. I just ask them, hey, you mind? Can I use your bathroom real quick? And by the time I get back, I sit down, I pull out the app, and who's your beneficiary going to be? And we just proceed with filling out the application, as though we never even had that conversation before about how they had to talk it over.
Yeah, and I think my last word on this, when it comes to objections, is don't give them too much weight. Like, if Adam says to me, the sky is purple, I'm like, well, either you're high or it's not. Like, let's not, I'm not going to give that kind of nonsense credibility. I'll touch on it lightly. No, Adam, the sky's blue. No big deal. It's a beautiful blue sky today, actually. And I'll continue forward. Or I will just assume my way up into the point where it's a dead end. Like I will get out my iPad, I will start the application, name, birth date, social. I'll get all the way to the bank account and I'll either finish or they'll finally call my bluff and say they don't want it. Like I don't mind assuming my way through a half-wasted application versus just walking away when maybe they just needed me to keep walking in that direction.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, I like it. I've had even I got to talk to my daughter about it. Oh, is she going to be your beneficiary? What's her name?
Mhm.
Okay, mark it down. Just keep filling out the app,
Or,
and
yeah,
see what happens. They're either going to let you proceed to the end, and you end up writing the piece of business, or you don't. But I've done that too. You kind of push them through the process, get to the end, and then a lot of times they're like, man, I feel better actually. I'm glad that we actually went through with doing this today. Thanks for. I needed someone to come over to do this, or I probably would have never done it.
ethically lead them to where you know they need to be. Like
Yeah.
you're the best agent they're ever going to meet with. You're equipped with probably the best products. Well, hopefully. Well, any insurance is better than no insurance. You're better trained than most agents if you've watched this video for 26 minutes. And nobody else is going to give them a big fair shake as you are. Like lead them ethically to where they need to be. And either they're going to continue down that path with you, like at the bottom of this video here, or they're going to walk off and jump into the lake. One or the other, just have enough people, and in the end, it'll all work out.
Yeah, and all I could say is two things to not do would be to don't just fill out the application where the client doesn't even realize they're taking out a policy, saying something like, "Oh, I just need to make sure you qualify." To me, that's not ethical. And also, don't use the 30-day close. Oh, well, you have 30 days to cancel it. So, we've talked about that in the past, because the first thing that they're going to be thinking about when they get that policy is, oh, yeah, that guy told me I could cancel this if I don't want it. Like, don't close that way because, don't close that way because, again, it's going to affect you. It's going to affect your persistency. And honestly, to be quite honest, one thing people don't think about, we talk a lot about chargebacks. Companies or carriers, whatever you want to call them, they're not going to want to do business with you if you don't write good business. And if you close that way and your persistency is bad, and maybe you like them as a carrier, they're not going to want you. They're going to tell you, sorry, you're writing too much poor quality business. So, look out for all sides involved, the client, the company, and yourself as well. I think if everybody wins, that's really my goal. I want everybody to win. I want everybody to be happy, and you do the right thing, and we're all going to win.
I would rather an agent that works with me, works with Adam, works in the industry, write $3,500 of clean final expense premium and like a 90% stick rate versus $10K a dirty business that just drops off for one reason or the other. Like it may not sound super sexy. It may not sound like something you want to post on social media. Honestly, I work with guys that have been in the business 30 years that produce about 3 to 5K a week of clean, 95% persistent business. I'll take them any day over the douche that writes 10K and leaves me with 19,000 in chargeback roll-up debt, because it was all fluff to them anyway. Appreciate that one.
Yeah, makes sense. I hear you. Yeah, we don't talk enough about persistency and the importance of that.
We're going to talk about roll-ups next week. How's that sound? How's that sound?
Oh man, that sounds exciting.
That sounds like I'm going to anger somebody, and I don't care. Let's talk about roll-ups come next week.
All right, sounds good.
Alrighty, guys, like the video, comment below. Appreciate you watching the full duration, as we just don't know how to shut up and only film 15 minutes. Subscribe to the channel. I think something from today's video will have made you better, and if that's the case, show us some interaction and some feedback, and we'll be back next week to do it again.
Sounds good. Thanks a lot, Chris.